This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next-day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
September 11th, 2025. Welcome to the UNWS El Salvador SV podcast, a space for conversation and reflection, where we explore current topics from El Salvador and the world together with a fluid and easy-to-understand intellectual curiosity. Find us for free on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or on your favorite platform. Find us on PayPal with the username PayPal2025186. Write it all together, PayPal2025186. Remember, your contributions help pay the bills so we can provide content. We are NoWS El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, and comment.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're really glad you're joining us today as we get into another exploration of the world around us. Today we've got quite a stack of recent events, reports, and some insights from El Salvador and, well, globally too.
Yeah, what a mix.
Our mission, as always, is to sift through it all, pull out those key bits of knowledge, maybe some surprising facts, and basically help you get well informed pretty quickly. And what's quite compelling today, I think, is how these different pieces really paint a dynamic picture. We'll be trying to connect some dots, between local happenings in El Salvador and the bigger international headlines.
Right.
Hopefully giving us a clearer sense, not just of what's going on, but maybe why it matters and what those broader connections might be, trying to see that bigger picture.
Exactly, like putting together a puzzle piece by piece. So our focus today is really a snapshot of September 11th, 2025, and the days right around it. We're honing in on the most, let's say, compelling national and international stuff. Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to kick things off right here in El Salvador. And look, for sports fans, this is pretty big news. The Selecta, our national football team, they're getting ready for some crucial World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, against Panama and Guatemala in October.
Exactly. And the big question was, where are these really pivotal games going to be played?
Well, the answer actually reveals a pretty interesting mix of sports and culture. The Selecta will play at the Cuscatlán Stadium, and it's basically thanks to a big scheduling shuffle.
Yeah.
That Guns N' Roses concert, which, was a huge deal.
Right, huge anticipation.
Originally planned for Cuscatlán, it's been moved over to the Magico Gonzalez Stadium. Now, this isn't just like a minor venue change. It really shows how major cultural events, like a massive rock concert, can directly impact national sports schedules. And maybe even national pride, you could argue. Oh, and there's this other layer too. Apparently, Panamanian fans, historically, haven't been keen on playing at Cuscatlán. They talk about bad memories from, losing games there in the past.
Yeah, interesting. So a bit of sports psychology mixed in.
Exactly. So the relocation, it kind of solves multiple things at once.
That's really insightful, how those logistical things ripple out. And beyond the qualifiers, there's actually more good sports news. We're celebrating Sofia Paez, the Salvadoran athlete who's back home with a world medal.
Fantastic achievement.
Truly is. Puts El Salvador on the map again. And La Zalita, our U20 team, they just wrapped up a European tour. That's invaluable experience for them.
Absolutely. Those kinds of successes, individual and youth team, they're not just wins, right? They're about building identity, inspiring the next generation. Really important stuff.
Okay, now shifting gears a bit from playing fields to actual roads. Let's talk infrastructure. FOVIL, the Road Conservation Fund, they've been busy making significant contributions to road projects across the country.
Yeah, FOVIL's work is, it's critical, isn't it? Especially here, you got the rainy season seismic activity.
Yeah.
It constantly challenges the roads.
Sure.
So these projects aren't just about convenience, making commutes faster. It's about making the country more resilient, keeping the economy moving, and crucially, improving safety and access, especially for maybe more remote areas. It's vital work.
It really is.
And speaking of conditions, the weather forecast for today, Thursday, September 11th, is looking like moderate storms, scattered rain, mostly in the mountains. So good roads are even more important then.
Right.
But on a really positive safety note, The Guardavidas unit, the lifeguards, they've reported 0 fatalities on beaches where they're present.
Wow, that's incredible.
It really is. It's not just a number. It shows the direct life-saving impact of their work. A real public safety success story.
That's genuinely heartening news. Okay, let's move into the economy because this is where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit surprising for some. When you look at meat consumption, specifically beef, a full 60% of the beef eaten in El Salvador is imported.
60%? That's a huge figure.
It is, and apparently most of it comes from Nicaragua, then Costa Rica, then the U.S.
You know, that reliance, importing 60% of a staple like beef, it really tells you something about, well, maybe vulnerabilities in the economy, regional trade dynamics.
Oh, so.
Well, it could suggest gaps in domestic farming capacity, maybe land use issues, climate factors, or even past policies that maybe didn't prioritize local production enough.
Okay.
And being that dependent makes the country, susceptible to supply chain hiccups, price swings internationally, even political shifts in those neighboring countries. It definitely raises questions about long-term food security.
That's a really important economic perspective. And speaking of big financial moves, there's been a significant corporate development. Inversiones Cruz-Catalan Centro America has finished acquiring 100% of La Hipotecaria holding.
When I saw that, and it wasn't simple, right? They needed regulatory approvals in Panama, El Salvador, and Colombia.
Exactly. Multi-country deal.
That's a major consolidation in the regional financial world. It could really shake up the competition for financial services across those markets. When one company buys out another with operations in several countries, it's usually a strategic play for market share, maybe economies of scale, maybe new products down the line. For consumers, for businesses, it means changes in loans, mortgages, banking. It's a big move.
Definitely one to watch. And while those are the big headlines, sometimes it's the small, everyday economic things that really get people talking.
Like what?
Like the buzz online about a well-known chicken restaurant that's now charging, get this, $0, 10 cents for to-go boxes.
10 cents. Sounds tiny.
Right. But it's sparking a real debate online.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That small charge could become a real, flashpoint. It says a lot about how sensitive people are to pricing right now, maybe with inflation concerns.
Yeah, could be.
For the restaurant, maybe it's rising costs. Packaging isn't cheap these days. But for the customer, it just feels like another little burden, right?
Yeah.
An online reaction is like a mini poll on the cost of living.
A good point. Okay, let's pivot now to justice and politics, both here in El Salvador and how things echo globally. Domestically, we've got news from the courts. The owners of GT Teleris, they're being sent to trial.
Ah, yes, the fraud case.
That's the one. Alleged fraud over $300,000. So a significant amount. Plus, there's the Cooperativa El Bast case. The detention period for a lawyer and a pastor involved has been extended.
And there's controversy around that extension, right? Some groups questioning the legality.
Exactly. Organizations are raising questions about it.
These cases are important because they give you a glimpse into how the justice system is working or, the challenges it faces. The GT Teleris case, that's about tackling white-collar crime.
Right.
The Cooperativa El Bosque situation, with the extended detention and the questions around legality, that's sensitive. It touches on due process concerns, especially under the regime of exception.
Can you briefly explain the regime of exception for listeners who might not know?
Sure. It's basically a policy that grants security forces expanded powers, like making arrests without warrants in some cases, mainly aimed at fighting gang violence. It's definitely improved safety in many areas, but it's also sparked a lot of debate and concern from human rights groups about civil liberties and legal safeguards.
Got it. So these reports are really part of that bigger discussion.
Absolutely. And speaking of that regime, on a more somber note, there's a report from Socorro Jurídico referencing the case of a man named Henry. They describe him as the 445th person to die due to circumstances related to the regime of exception.
That's a very heavy statistic.
It is, and while figures like that are sometimes contested, it's reported by organizations monitoring the policy and highlights the human cost that they document. It's a stark reminder. And on the other side of the justice coin, there's news of an MS-13 member being sentenced to 25 years for murder, which shows the ongoing efforts against gang violence.
Right. A complex picture. And briefly, there was also an update on the arrest of 9 people accused of sexual exploitation of a minor in the East. A really serious case.
A critical action by law enforcement there, definitely. Protecting vulnerable people is paramount.
Okay, let's look internationally now. Some of these headlines have direct links to El Salvador, others maybe more indirect. We start with quite a strong denial from overseas. The government of Eswatini says it has absolutely no agreement with the U.S. to take in a Salvadoran citizen, Kilmar Abrego.
That's interesting. A public denial like that suggests something complex is going on behind the scenes. International relocations or extraditions are always tricky, involving diplomacy, legal stuff, politics.
So the denial itself is news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could mean negotiations broke down, maybe a misunderstanding, or Eswatini just wanting to distance itself. Leaves you wondering what happens next for Abrego.
And speaking of major international political stories, wow, this one just broke today, September 11th. Brazil's Supreme Court has condemned Jair Bolsonaro, the former president.
For attempted coup d'etat. Yeah, that's huge.
Massive implications.
Truly a landmark ruling, not just for Brazil, but really for democracy watchers everywhere. For a top court to condemn a former head of state like that, it sends a powerful message about upholding the Constitution.
That leaders aren't above the law.
Precisely. And, unfortunately, these kinds of legal battles, courts dealing with accusations of undermining democracy, seem to be happening more often globally. It raises big questions about accountability, the strength of democracy, the role of the courts. It's fascinating and, frankly, worrying to watch how these play out.
Definitely sets a precedent. Now let's turn to the U.S. There's news there that's making waves domestically and probably regionally. The FBI has released photos and offered a big reward up to $100,000.
For the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yes, the conservative organizer killed at Utah Valley University, a very prominent Trump ally. And linked to that, the Trump administration is reportedly revoking visas for anyone found glorifying the killing.
Right. This tragic event and the strong U.S. government reaction, it immediately ramps up concerns, doesn't it? Political violence is always a powder keg.
Yeah.
And revoking visas for glorifying it, that's a clear stand against perceived incitement. But it also opens up that whole debate about free speech versus dangerous rhetoric, especially in such a charged atmosphere.
And staying with U.S. politics, there are some strong words from Democratic Congress members. They've warned the U.S. cannot be an accomplice to the collapse of Salvadoran democracy.
Oof. Strong language.
Very. They're accusing the Trump administration of being apologetic of corruption and authoritarianism in this region.
That highlights a major split in U.S. views on foreign policy towards El Salvador. It signals deep concerns about democracy, human rights, especially related to the regime of exception we talked about.
So it's tied back.
Directly. Calling it administration apologetic for those things. That's serious diplomatic language. It could strain relations, impact aid, trade, cooperation. Depending on who holds power in the U.S. Shows how U.S. domestic politics can really affect things here.
Also in U.S. news, Nason Joaquin Garcia, the leader of La Luz del Mundo Church, he's facing new charges.
Right, that complex legal case continues.
And former President Trump has claimed that 11 members of the Tren de Aragua, that Venezuelan gang, were eliminated in a U.S. operation targeting a drug boat from Venezuela.
Okay, so two different things there. The Garcia case touches on accountability in powerful institutions. The Tren de Aragua claim, if it's accurate, points to ongoing efforts against major transnational crime groups.
Which are expanding their reach.
Exactly. And that specific group, Tren de Aragua, is known for being particularly brutal. It also highlights that ongoing fight against drug trafficking at sea.
And here's an example of how the political climate can spill over in unexpected ways, even into music. Bad Bunny, the global superstar, he's apparently excluded the U.S. from his concert tour because of fears about immigration raids. He actually said, "We were very worried."
Wow. That's really telling. When an artist that big changes tour plans and publicly cites fear of immigration policies, it says a lot about the perceived climate.
It really personalizes the issue.
It absolutely does. It shows how political decisions can impact the economy, culture, even personal feelings of safety for artists and maybe their crews and fans too. It's a powerful statement, really.
Globally, other things are happening too. The president of Honduras had to suspend activities because of the flu.
A reminder that health can impact leadership anytime.
And tragically, there was a gas truck explosion in Mexico. 6 dead, 90 injured reported. And an explosion at a fireworks factory in Colombia.
Yeah, terrible incidents. And if you connect these, they sort of underline these vulnerabilities we all live with. A leader getting sick, infrastructure failures, industrial accidents.
They disrupt daily life so quickly.
And often tragically. They happen in different places, but they remind us of those constant risks.
And speaking of risk and danger, one of the sources we looked at had an editorial. It warned that the world is increasingly dangerous, citing fears of large-scale war, violence, political assassinations.
That editorial sounds quite stark, but maybe not entirely unfounded when you look at some headlines. And perhaps the most dramatic example right now is the news out of Nepal.
What's happening there?
Reports of a revolt leading to military control, dozens dead. And get this, 15,000 prisoners escaping.
15,000, that's chaos.
It's a massive breakdown of order. It's a chilling example of how quickly political instability can just unravel things, threaten lives on a huge scale. It really underscores how fragile peace can be, even in places that seem far away. It makes you think how social issues can escalate if governance fails.
A truly sobering thought. September 11th, 2025. Welcome to the New WS El Salvador SV podcast, a space for conversation and reflection where we explore current topics from El Salvador and the world together with a fluid and easy-to-understand intellectual curiosity. Find us for free on YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, or on your favorite platform. Find us on PayPal with the username PayPal2025186. Write it all together, PayPal2025186. Remember, your contributions help pay the bills so we can provide content. We are New WS El Salvador SV. Follow us, share, and comment. Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, in this final section, let's shift focus a bit. We want to celebrate some Salvadoran talent and culture, look at innovation, and touch on some broader social reflections both here and globally.
Sounds good.
Let's start with someone truly remarkable, Paula Heredia, a Salvadoran who won an Emmy for her work related to the 9/11 attacks. That's just an incredible achievement.
It really is. Paula Heredia winning an Emmy. It's not just personal, it's recognition of Salvadoran talent contributing on a world stage, especially with such impactful work on a major historical event.
Highlights the talent we have.
Absolutely. And domestically, the arts scene seems quite active too. There were celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the musical group Yolocamba Aita.
A legendary group.
Truly shaped the musical landscape for decades. And there's also remembrance for the actress Isabel Dada, honoring her huge legacy in theater and film here.
Important to remember those figures.
Definitely. And for Independence Day in San Salvador, it looks like a real mix of activities. Everything from ballet to a drone show shows a nice blend of tradition and modern celebration.
Yeah, that sounds great. That diverse cultural expression is key. And shifting to education and innovation, this is exciting. Salvadoran students have qualified for the World Robotics Olympiad in Singapore.
That is fantastic news. Really showcases the talent in STEM fields among young people here.
Absolutely. It's about fostering those critical thinking, problem-solving skills for the future.
Exactly. It's vital for development. Now, on a completely different note in schools, there's apparently been some controversy, some debate around banning the Edgar haircut.
Ah, yes, the haircut debate.
It's kind of a classic clash, isn't it? School rules versus personal expression. Schools want discipline, maybe uniformity, but bans like this always spark conversations about identity trends, how much control institutions should have.
It's a small thing that touches on bigger themes.
Precisely. It reflects those larger societal discussions.
Okay, looking at global cultural trends now, we see a tribute happening for the singer Juan Gabriel in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. His impact was just immense.
The true icon. His music crossed borders.
Definitely. And Ed Sheeran, he's just released his 8th album. Still a massive force in pop music.
Keeps churning them out. And speaking of long-lasting cultural impact, Toy Story, the film that basically revolutionized animation, is celebrating 30 years.
30 years, wow. Makes you feel old.
Doesn't it? And it's apparently coming back to cinemas. So nostalgia factor high.
For sure.
You know, all these things. Juan Gabriel's legacy, Sharon's new music, Toy Story's anniversary. They just highlight how art and entertainment connect us. Across time, across borders. They become part of our shared memory.
Well said. Okay, on the health front, some interesting global news. China is reporting a pretty significant public health success. They've gotten childhood overweight and obesity rates below 10%.
That is significant, especially given their population size. It must have involved a massive effort. Campaigns, dietary changes, activity programs, policies.
Makes you wonder what lessons other countries could learn.
It certainly raises that question. But then, on the flip side of global health and environment, there's a new report making a very direct link between fossil fuel producers and the increase in heat waves globally.
Stark contrast there, health success versus environmental alarm.
Exactly. That report basically reinforces the urgency of climate change, points fingers directly at certain industries for contributing to extreme weather that impacts health, farming, everything. It really pushes questions about corporate responsibility and the energy transition.
Big questions indeed. And speaking of big questions and challenges, this next bit touches on technology and global policy. First, there are reports about the growing demand for electricity to power artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, the AI energy footprint.
Apparently expected to rise rapidly, then maybe stabilize later.
It's a huge infrastructure and sustainability issue. As AI gets more powerful, the energy needed for data centers, for the computations, it skyrockets. We have to figure out how to power that sustainably, or we just add massively to emissions.
A hidden cost of progress.
Potentially, if not managed right. And then, related to tech and policy, French lawmakers are proposing something pretty bold: banning social media for kids under 15.
Wow, under 15. That's a strong move.
It is. It taps right into that global debate about protecting young people online, mental health impacts of social media, online safety versus personal freedoms.
A real balancing act.
Definitely. And France often sets trends in regulation. This kind of policy, if it passes, could influence how other countries approach the whole complex issue of children and social media.
So many moving parts. Wow, what a journey through just a slice of time around September 11th, 2025, from, local football scheduling changed by a rock concert to massive international political rulings like the Bolsonaro condemnation, discussions about justice, the environment.
It really shows how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Staying informed isn't just about collecting headlines. It's about seeing those threads, how things weave together, sometimes in really surprising ways.
Exactly. And while the stories are so diverse, sports, finance, crime, culture, global politics, you see these recurring themes popping up. Progress, yes, but also significant challenges and I think human resilience running through it all.
Yeah.
Like you said, a seemingly small local thing, leaving that concert has knock-on effects. Global politics impacts artists' tours, maybe even the price you pay for takeout. Every piece fits into that larger, constantly shifting picture.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, maybe think about how a country's economic choices, like El Salvador, importing 60% of its beef, aren't just about local farms or appetites. They're tied into global supply chains, trade deals, political relationships that stretch far beyond borders.
Right.
And then consider how a controversial local policy, like the regime of exception here, doesn't just stay local. It sparks international debate, influences how other countries view El Salvador, maybe even affects decisions made by global stars like Bad Bunny about where they feel safe to perform. These seemingly separate news items from just one-day environment, celebrity fears, court cases, robotics wins, they all paint this incredibly complex, always evolving picture of our world. So maybe the takeaway is to keep observing how those local stories connect to the global tapestry, how they influence each other back and forth.
A great way to put it.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and keep seeking those insights.